All right, you tub thumpers, it's time to dust off your starter jackets, rip off those tearaways, and blow into your game cartridges. I'm Sam Blandford.
I'm Pat Sellers.
I'm Simon Blandford.
I'm Sean Kelly, and we wish it was the 90s. Welcome back, everyone, to take 2 of our introduction of this episode, but more importantly, to the podcast where we talk about random things from the 90s from a very uneducated, highly biased New Zealand perspective. Today, we're back to the now famed and highly coveted Wish It Was the 90s Awards. And the year in question, 1997.
Yeah.
Before we get into it, though, if everyone winds the clock back to 1991, the podcast episode that is, not the actual year, Sam opened with a chat about how long do you have before you're allowed to say Happy New Year, and it really sat with me. And when I was emailing people for my other job, I was still saying it, and then I would put in brackets afterwards. Can you even say that in February?
Great gag. Yeah. So jokey at work.
But anyway.
It's the wackiness I can't stand.
So, 97, take you back. People's Magazine's sexiest man, George Clooney. IBM's Big Blue AI defeated chess champion Gary Kasparov. First time AI beat the chess champion. Jenny Shipley was New Zealand's first female Prime Minister. And Netscape was the internet browser of choice. Just a reminder on how the awards work. We have some categories: music, film, TV, gaming, sport, history, and an overall winner. And just to point out once again, so I think there might be some controversial topics today, so I want to make it very clear that these are just our opinions, and we'd like to hear yours, and we'd like you to reflect on yours when you realise that ours are right.
Well, at least we had opinions last time. Simon just skipped about 3 categories.
There was a few categories in this one where I think this was a really weird one where there was either a plethora of options or I was quite stuck, which was odd. But I thought
because the options were all shit.
Yep.
Yeah.
Before we get stuck in, though, 1997 being a year where we were all semi-functioning humans, I'm just going to do around the table of how old did you turn in 1997? We'll go with you, Simon. How old did you turn?
I turned 11 in December 1997.
Nice. Pat?
Glad I got to go second, so I don't have to work out the maths. Yeah, 11. I knew it. My date of birth.
And Sammy?
A little bit better than when I was 1 in 1991. I was 8 in 1997. So I do have first-hand experience for this one.
Yeah, I turned 10 in 1997. So some of this, it's interesting still, some of the stuff that I picked at least, I didn't watch or, play or whatever in 1997. And some things I definitely did. So we'll kick things off as we always do with our music section, which is divided into 2 separate sections, Best Single and Best Album. And we'll start with you, Sam. Best Single.
Look, there are some absolute crackers that I remember from 1997. And actually, we had a few cassettes of Now That's What I Call Music. And I believe the one that probably got played the most was Now That's What I Call Music 6, which had a number of these songs on it. But my single is not on that album, and it is Michael Barrymore's See You When You Get There.
Fantastic tune.
Actually by Coolio.
Coolio done a cover of it that year, eh? 97.
I heard they did.
Yeah, absolutely ripper tune.
That is a ripper tune. All right, we'll defer to Paddy.
Yeah, I'll second that. There's a long list of singles that could have been this, and I've forgotten about Now That's What I Call Music. Came around. When did Kicking start coming out? Did you ever have the Kicking tapes?
I was more of a 100% hits man myself, but
I had the first and only what was supposed to be a Now type of series, but only one album ever got released, called Fat Tracks.
Oh, that's pretty good. Yeah.
Was it PH Fat?
Of course, it was PH.
Yeah, it would. I remember having Kicking 8 and it had Shei Fu chains on it. It was a ripper. Yeah, long list that could have been selected here. So I was torn. I was split between a couple of songs, and my left hand there was song 1 or there was song 2. So I had to think truly, madly, deeply about it, and I've ended up with the same pick as Sam because I'm a big fan of this podcast. So go back and listen to the Cringe Factor episode if you want to see the original version of See You When You Get There, but Coolio's version in 97 is pretty good as well.
Make it 3 out of 3.
Simon, do you have a selection that doesn't reference our podcast, or?
I'd just like to shout out to those puns, first of all, from Pat. They were outstanding.
Yeah.
97 was probably like...
I fell for the first one.
It was the golden era of me listening to pop. So 97 to 99, probably, like, I was listening to Hot 9 at 9 at 91ZM. And I was the eldest, so I didn't realise, when I got to high school, I was just an absolute laughing stock because I listened to 91ZM because I didn't have an older brother to tell me, don't listen to that. So this was my absolute peak of pop. So some massive hits that year. I remember I'll Be Missing You, Puff Daddy, Feet, Faith Evans, Mo Money, Mo Problems, of course. Candle in the Wind, which we might touch on later, the re-release of that. And just a shout out to one of my favourite earworms of 1997, Semi-Charmed Life by Third Eye Blind, which is just basically about crystal meth. But I was 10-year-old me was just bopping along and singing along to that song. That was an absolute banger as well. But I think
real happy tune.
Yeah, absolutely. Real happy tune, but actually about doing crystal meth all the time. My favourite song of 1997, which again was made fun of by the popular kids, Mbop by Hanson. Absolute banger. And that's my choice.
Bop.
Absolutely hated that song.
It's a fair selection for 97, though.
Yeah.
It was everywhere.
Yep. Yeah, it was. I remember it getting absolutely blasted about 15 times at the St. Peter and Paul's 1997 disco.
What a disco, I heard.
Also, a good reference point, a girl that I had a massive crush on turned up to that disco in a Charlotte Hornets starter jacket, and my crush only intensified.
It would.
Yeah.
It would.
My selection for best song of 1997 and arguably all time is Robbie Williams' Angels.
Ooh.
Strong.
Very strong.
Now, do you guys want to do albums or honourable mentions of songs? I know Simon's already done his honourable mentions. We'll forgive him for that. Should we do albums and then we can just do honourable mentions? Because some of mine are like
we can cover them both.
Songs from albums, I guess. All right, so best album. Sammy, we'll go to you again.
Thanks. Couple of ones that I think other people will mention, which I'll leave just because I'm not probably that big of a fan of Radiohead. But is that between two? And Simon mentioned Mo Money, Mo Problems. Life After Death, Notorious B.I.G. Released 2 weeks after his death.
You reckon they renamed
it? And Spice World. Again, referring to a great podcast that we did earlier in our careers. And I've gone with Spice World.
That's
nice.
A phenomenal pick.
A lot of fans of Wish It Were the 90s on this podcast.
Paddy, what's your album?
It's quite funny you're mentioning your 97 disco. We didn't have a disco that year for Eastern Hut. We had like a weird movie night sleep-in type thing at the hall that also featured a talent show.
That sounds bloody lame.
I don't even know how I'm going to explain this. This is probably the weirdest and funniest thing I've ever seen in my life. Bear in mind, we were 11 years old. My favourite album, or my album for this reason, is The Prodigy, The Fat of the Land. And I had a friend, we'll call him Yannick. And at 11 years old, his entry to the talent show was on the stage. He brought out a chair and he brought out a teddy bear and sat it on that chair, handed one of the teachers his CD or cassette, and it blasted Smack My Bitch Up while he ran out with a bat and beat the teddy bear. And the music didn't get pulled for like way too long. There was a teacher like screaming through, like trying to get to it. You just hear this. For that reason, I always have very fond memories of Prodigy. Just from one of the most insane things I've ever seen.
Yannick S. No, that's too obvious. Let's just call him Jay Stefanski.
Was it the real Yannick or is it the fake Yannick?
It was our one.
Oh, so it's not your Yannick.
Yeah, it's a different one.
Oh shit! I take it. Sorry, Yannick.
Yeah. Wow.
It was genius. The guy was an absolute genius.
You guys know, Simon, you definitely know who he's talking about. French first name, Scottish last name.
Of course.
Yeah.
Hey, we're not trying to put him in here.
Well, it's by far, it's probably not even in his top 20 dumb things he's done.
If he was here, he would have told that story. He loves that story.
Simon, your album, please. Maybe save your honourable mentions for that section.
Will do. So, thank you. That's good hosting. For best song, I kind of went with pop, and songs that sort of big at ZM and not Hot 99. But so for this one, it's pretty hard to go past OK Computer by Radiohead. Paranoid Android, Karma Police, No Surprises, Unlucky, just four of the great songs of that album. And be rude not to pick that one, to be honest.
That's good. So that was probably my number 2. And I did, at least top 3, I'd say. And I did think about this long and hard. And I found this hard because there were lots of albums I knew, but not lots of albums that I'd actually listened to, that I could put on and, I guess enjoy from track 1 to track finish. So that made it really difficult. And so I ended up going with Urban Hymns by The Verve. It's a really, really good album, and it's a bit of a journey. And obviously, Bittersweet Symphony is an absolute belter, but there's probably 4 or 5 really
definitely
good
not
songs.
Definitely not the best single. Definitely not the best single on that album. The Drugs Don't Work. Absolutely,
that's phenomenal.
Absolutely dominates Bittersweet Symphony.
That was up there on my best single.
Yeah, Drugs Don't Work is great. Right, so honourable mentions. I'll run through a couple. I'm sure you guys have got some as well. Candle in the Wind came up. I guess Tub Thumping was alluded to at the start of the podcast. Personally, I'm still a really big fan of Everybody by the Backstreet Boys.
Sure.
Barrymore, isn't it?
Fat of the Land obviously got Pat's pick. Wu-Tang Forever, including the song Triumph, which is absolutely incredible, but just a really, really awesome Wu-Tang album. Those are my honourable mentions. Anyone else got any?
Just Sugar Sugar, How You Get So Fly by Sugar Ray, and Barbie Girl by Aqua.
I had a Big Willie style. Will Smith,
Oh.
and the
Had
colour
that.
and the shape, Foo Fighters. And I think all my singles were covered. Yeah, great stuff.
I just wanted to mention, I looked very, very closely at the Spice Girls, and obviously in terms of their impact on the music industry, and to some extent the film industry. See our episode on that. Why I didn't put them in is their debut album Spice, which was massive, came out in '96. Wannabe also came out in 1996, but was actually both released in the States in '97, January. So that's when they really exploded. Wannabe was the highest ever debut song by a non-American act, beating the previous holders, the Beatles, and the joint highest entry for a debut act with Alanis Morissette's Ironic.
How'd they get the time to write all those songs?
Wannabe was number one in the US for 4 weeks.
I used to think the same thing about the Monkeys, to be honest with you, Pat.
They're up there with True Bliss.
Best-selling album of '97 in the US, like 7 times platinum, just absolutely ridiculous. And that album is the best-selling album of all time by an all-female group.
One honourable mention after Sean talks about the Spice Girls' entire discography. Time Out of Mind. Bob Dylan. Can anybody guess which album it was? I'll tell you, his 30th studio album.
Beast.
A couple of amazing songs on that. Not Dark Yet, which is a ripper. And for all you kids at home, Make You Feel My Love, which was made more famous by Adele. That's all. That's just wanted to mention. Anytime I can mention Bob Dylan, I'll try and do it.
All right, so I feel like our overall winner there was Michael Barrymore.
Throws a hell of a pool party.
And because we had 4 different albums, Michael Barrymore just wins the whole music section.
Yeah, nice.
Nice, Mike.
Oh, he did do Puff Daddy as well, didn't he?
Yeah, I'll be missing you. Anyone's got the link to that clip, hit us up. We'd love to see it.
Should we move into the film category?
Let's go with films.
Okay, so we'll start with Best Animated Film, and we'll go reverse order. So I'll go first, and I like to confess that a number of the animated films that came out in '97 I haven't seen. There was one on there that I knew if I'd seen it, I would have picked it, but in good conscience, I couldn't do that. So instead, I've gone with Anastasia.
Yeah, nice.
So that goes to you, Simon.
Yeah, I haven't seen any of these films, so I'm out of this category, sorry.
Oh, sounds about right.
I can't believe you haven't used Anastasia as a history teaching tool for Russia and Rasputin's ghost.
Yeah, I should have. Recently debunked the fact that Anastasia is possibly still alive, or survived the shooting. So can't, unfortunately, and haven't seen any of those films. So I'm out for the second time in a row on Best Animated Film. Thank you, everybody. Give the people what they want.
Eddie?
I can weigh in this time round on the animated film. I'm going to take Hercules.
That was what I was alluding to.
I remember the Pizza Hut toys, and I remember really enjoying my little, I don't know, was it rubbery plastic Pegasus, which I've also found on eBay for $20, the old Pizza Hut toy. So just seeing how this auction goes as we speak.
If we were live, we could turn this into a telethon and get people to back you.
A couple that I just wanted to, Flubber, not animated, right?
No.
It needs to be fully animated. All right.
Fully animated.
Obviously, that'd be the number one pick.
Between Hercules and Anastasia and just because I had a few toys like Pat, and I think we had the demo or something on PS1 of Hercules and played it a lot. Hercules.
Yeah,
gets
good
it for me.
reasons. Good reasons.
That's fair. It's a win to Hercules, and that's fair enough.
It's pretty slim pickings though.
Yeah, it was slim pickings.
Yeah.
You know what wasn't slim pickings?
Best film.
Live films, live action,
Oh, no,
as they
not at
call
all.
them.
Yeah, flubber.
What?
So just to clarify, Sean, I'm not doing honourable mentions.
Not until we get to the honourable mentions section.
Very good.
But if you had a real tough toss up, you could talk about that, I guess.
No, I'm getting the hang of this thing now.
All right, we'll keep the same order for this one. I'll go first, and I did have a really tough time on this, but I went with Con Air.
Ooh.
Honourable mention for me.
Very good.
Mention for me, Sean. So you get no complaints from me about that one.
And now to you, Simon.
Yeah, look. As Pat alluded to, I'm a big fan of this podcast. So I couldn't go past 1997's Australian movie, The Castle.
Great selection.
Eddie?
I'm going to go with Good Will Hunting, mostly because it was pretty early days of me and Alice dating. For some reason, I put it on when we got
real
back
early, 10 years old,
home
real early.
at like, I don't know, 1 a.m., real boozed, and basically talked about how I
What were
loved
you
the movie
doing at that age?
and then misquoted the entire movie for a good 90 minutes. Don't know how she's still here.
Is this the same night that you got the guitar out and performed for her, or?
We're not talking about that. It was a different night.
Sam?
I had to go home to get it.
I'll mention a few honourable mentions before I mention my top one, Sean, and then other people can weigh in with their honourable mentions.
Before you do, can I ask Pat whether the song he sang was 1997's "Good Riddance, Time of Your Life," the song that every single person played on the guitar?
There's a very strong chance that was one of the songs. Yeah.
Well, it was a full set.
Yes.
Are you sure
Sorry,
it wasn't a certain Prodigy song?
Oh God, poor old.
It wasn't in my repertoire.
So, yes, I did have all the above mentioned in my honourable mentions. Donnie Brasco, also mentioned. Men in Black, fantastic movie.
Yeah, that can't be considered because Will Smith's been cancelled.
Oh, tough that.
Political.
Bean, the movie.
Mm.
Out in 97, the best, pulling the fingers, that's such a good scene.
So that's also my honourable mention, by the way.
Boogie Nights and Titanic, obviously huge at the time, but in my top 3 movies of all time is La Vita è Bella, Life is Beautiful.
Great film.
Excellent choice. Good that you brought up Titanic because I mean it is also, not only was it wildly popular and a ridiculously successful movie, but it is good. It is really good.
It's great.
Can I just the Bean thing, just on Bean? The moment, like, I'm not being sarcastic at all. The moment where Bean, like, you see what he's done to the painting and it's been rubbed out. You see just like his little drawing replacing Whistler's mother's face. It's just an absolute, not being sarcastic, absolutely hilarious moment.
I think the other thing about the Bean movie compared to Mr. Bean, which I recently learned, is ridiculously short and only like 7 episodes or something. But there are some genuine moments in that movie that hit you in the feels. which you
great
wouldn't
movie.
expect. It is a great movie. So we talked about Titanic. Obviously, when Nick Cage is running hot, he's running hot. Face Off is excellent.
Sure.
Liar Liar, excellent.
Is he?
Big fan of Air Force One. Get off my plane. And I want to give a very special mention to Starship Troopers, which was way ahead of its time. At the time, nobody got that movie. And then retrospectively, people have gone back and realised that this is an incredibly well put together satire of fascism, and it's very, very clever, disguised as just a futuristic sci-fi. So that's awesome. And I guess a shout out to Batman and Robin, Spawn, and Steel for killing the superhero genre until the Dark Knight trilogy.
Yeah, if you see the video of my face, I was like pulling a face when you were saying Batman and Robin there, but you really pulled through.
Any other honourable mentions?
Was Georgia the Jungle there?
Ooh.
Oh, yeah, that
Jungle.
wasn't mentioned. That's a good film.
Disney's #1 grossing film of 1997, which kind of shows you how terribly Disney went that year.
Chasing Amy was it 97? Enjoy that film.
So, how do we pick a winner here?
You can't.
All right, it's a tie. But Simon loses for skipping a category. So first equal for three of us and Simon last.
Yeah.
Right, fair enough. I'll accept that.
All right.
Wear it like a badge of honour.
Next section, television.
Oh, good stuff.
So we've got animated and we've got series. A bit of a reverse here. I found animated. There were some good options, and I found series and possibly hard. So I'm just going to try and randomize the order here with Pat.
I went with shows that debuted 97. So my honourables were Dharma and Greg. Just
we're doing animated.
And animated. Are we going animated first?
Yeah, I've got animated.
There's a dead set winner in this if you're going
debuted. Should we all say the same thing on 3?
Well, I won't be saying the same thing as you guys.
Neither.
Well, I'm upset.
South Park. No.
Got to be South Park. Honourable mentions to Recess and the Angry Beavers, but South Park definitely #1, released in 97.
I'm going to argue with that. I'm a big fan of South Park, but the first 5 or 6 seasons are almost unwatchable.
At the time when you're 11 years old, they were.
Yeah, I mean, let's not lie, and I will admit that I wore Cartman silk boxes to that said disco.
They would have been real expensive from that gift store in the hut. What was that called? The guy that had the Austin Powers car.
Michael Jordan thing on it.
They would go in just to play with that Michael Jordan phone.
Look at the real expensive lava lamps.
All right. So, Bob, I'm with you, Bob, by the way.
What did South Park? What's your pick, Sammy?
Oh, Pat did his bloody honourable mentions.
Yeah.
Took my Recess.
Yeah, Recess.
Everybody gets one. Recess, right?
Yeah, Recess is fantastic. I'd really like to do an episode of Recess in the future of this podcast, if possible.
Yeah. Recess for me is also my pick. I agree with Sean why I didn't pick South Park, though South Park's, one of the best shows ever, one of the most important shows of all time. I just agree with Bob. And Recess, just similar to quite a few of those Nickelodeon shows, quite adult humour at times as well, whilst also appealing to kids. Sam and I, as kids, always used to repeat that joke that TJ Detweiler, our protagonist, would say. We'll just cut to Detweiler and he'd say, "So then Principal Prickly said, 'That's not a kindergartner, that's my wife.'"
I thought in particular Sam, but I thought everyone was going to pick Pokemon.
Oh, it was between Recess and Pokemon.
It's an honourable mention for me.
I didn't watch Recess. Didn't like it.
Ooh.
So I went Pokemon. Okay, interesting. Wow. Best series was, I didn't enjoy it. I tried to pick something that debuted in '97 and couldn't.
Yeah, I didn't mind watching that wacky Dharma making Greg get up with all those sorts of crazy things. But yeah, it was tough.
Yeah, there was a real product of its time, eh? I agree.
Right, Paddy, what's your best series?
It was a little bit slimmer. The '97 debuting series. I went a bit nerdy. Just one that I watched a lot as a kid was Stargate SG-1. Probably more because I like the original film a lot, but I watched a lot of SG-1.
Is SG-1 the one that has MacGyver?
Yes.
Okay, good.
Which was always on Sky One.
MacGyver.
Yeah.
Or
No,
Stargate.
It was like SG-1, Hercules, and Xena. Just
Pretty sure MacGyver also was.
Yeah. All right. Yeah, I'm okay with that. Sammy?
I've picked something that I probably haven't watched lots and lots of, but I think it probably maybe didn't kickstart a genre, but it's been going. I think it's still going, and that's the Adventures of DCI Tom Barnaby and Midsummer Murders.
Midsummer Murders came up a lot in my searches, and I've heard good things about it, but I haven't seen it.
Yeah, it's
Never
a
heard
good
of
it's a good watch.
Sorry? No, it's me. Look, I really struggled, and I desperately wanted to stick to something that came out in '97, and I had a backup plan if I couldn't find it, but I did a very deep dive. And my selection is McDonald's Young Entertainers.
Ronnie K.
Yes.
Ronald
Selection.
Cristiano Jr.'s Twinkle Twinkle Little Star will forever live long in my heart.
Yeah, you win that round.
I was an Ainsley Allen person myself.
Si?
While I agree with that Bob is the absolute winner of the round, can I just cheat a little bit on my selections? So
Yes.
I've got a show from '97, and I've also got a season that I really liked. So the show that debuted in '97 is I'm Alan Partridge, which is very underrated and kind of just, I don't know, when you watch The Office, and I watched The Office before I watched I'm Alan Partridge, and then you watch I'm Alan Partridge, and there's a lot of similarities, that mockumentary type thing. But my favourite for that one is Seinfeld's season 9, which
Final
still
season?
bag it because the last season, but final season. Yeah, it's got episodes of The Butter Shave, The Serenity Now, The Slicer, The Merv Griffin Show, which could be my favourite Seinfeld episode of all time, and The Strike, which contains the infamous High Holiday of Festivus, invented by Frank Costanza. And all of those episodes actually aired in 1997. There was about 12 episodes in '97, the last 8 in '98. So just from those 12 episodes, even some fantastic TV. So the debut, Alan Partridge for Seinfeld season 9.
I was sure you were going to say the Roseanne Show.
The last season of Seinfeld was my backup plan before I found Young Entertainers. Even though the last episode is critically panned, it was the most watched TV episode in history at the time. And I can't remember what other show it was, but another show referenced it, where I thought maybe it was like Spin City or something like that, where people weren't doing what they were supposed to be doing because everyone was at home watching the last episode of Seinfeld.
Yeah.
Please correct me if I'm wrong about that reference, but it was something like that. And yeah, look, it's
everyone
the last
hated
episode
that.
might not be great, but definitely worth a mention. Any other honourable mentions?
Teletubbies.
Yeah, I got the Teletubbies.
If I'm honest, I would just recess for both.
I thought about Pokemon for.
I think recess, yeah, and probably South Park over and Pokemon. All those three, I would pick over the live action. I think this time at this period, I was watching Cartoon Network before school. Like I'd get ready for school, and then I'd be able to watch Cartoon Network until it was time to leave. And this is when Angry Beavers, Pat mentioned, Cow and Chicken, and Johnny Bravo all came out. And I particularly liked Cow and Chicken, and so they've made my honourable mentions as well.
I'd like to. I have an honourable mention that says the Cartoon Network generation, and Angry Beavers, Cow and Chicken, I Am Weasel. But I'm referencing them as the reason I stopped watching cartoons.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I just because when I started watching cartoons, it was obviously we know X-Men animated series, which I was a big fan of. We've got a whole series on that. If you want to listen,
Don't listen.
And the Batman animated series, Gargoyles, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, all these shows that were like had a bit of an ongoing storyline, and I just found the Cartoon Network generation was like too silly for this weirdly matured cartoon taste I had, and so I checked out. That was
am Weasel.
Oh, so annoying. Cat dog. Johnny Bravo is absolutely disgusting.
Yeah, Bravo's awful.
Any other honourable mentions?
None from me.
I did mine at the top.
Yeah, you guys, you boomers, Simon and Pat love fucking with the flow.
Yeah, there's the 86 babies are just useless.
Yeah.
All right, gaming.
Ooh.
What a year for gaming.
What a year.
We'll start with Simon this time.
John Lomas Rugby. Next question.
Sam?
Not John Lomu's Rugby.
Oh, I thought we were just going to run through it.
No, Final Fantasy VII. We've got a whole thing on that as well.
We've got a
Series
great
podcast.
episode on Jonas and Final Fantasy.
Yeah, want to go back and listen? Go for it. Yeah, Final
We're
Fantasy.
contractually obligated to pick one of those two games for podcast purposes.
I'm keen to hear Pat's and then mine, and then I'm keen to have an open discussion about how we got to these points, because I think we're all going to be on a similar page here. Paddy?
I'm going to actually change mine just to give something else. Grand Theft Auto, the original.
That's a honourable mention of mine. I picked Jonas. So
Jonas wins.
Yeah, Jonas wins. I thought about this long and hard. I actually, the third one that made my sort of debate was GoldenEye.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely. How can that not be a possibility?
But I thought about the impact on my life that Jonas had, and that's why it wins for me, because it was something that I did with all of my friends, whereas all of the other things except one in my list of honourable mentions was something I did by myself.
GoldenEye's a good multiplayer game.
Yeah, but in fact, I had to play GoldenEye with someone else because I didn't have a Nintendo 64, so I used to play that at Phil Tunnicliffe's.
Yeah. Yep, that was the same situation with us.
Yeah, obviously Final Fantasy VII is phenomenal. A lot of people would argue that there'd be a lot of people out there worldwide that would say that's their favourite game. But same with GoldenEye. Do you guys have any sort of thoughts around like why you went with what you went with?
Because I wanted to do something different than Jonas. Mine was Jonas, but Grand Theft Auto was awesome as well.
Lomu's just the amount of fun that we had with friends and stuff over the years. And just, we've already talked about in depth why that's such a great game. I think GTA was a great pick as well, because that kind of changed gaming. You know, it turned into one of the most profitable and iconic franchises of all time. Final Fantasy VII, again, on a personal level, it made me play other Final Fantasy games, introduced me to a whole new genre, and widely considered to be possibly the best game of all time. GoldenEye, again, whole swathes of kids, just much like Jonah's, I think. GoldenEye was like that for kids. They just went around to people's houses and played it all night for years and years. So look, there's 4 really good picks there, and the final one I would say as an honourable mention for me is The Curse of Monkey Island, which us Blandford boys, absolute Monkey Island revellers.
Yeah, I've got a couple other mentions. Probably one that I know the Blandfords wouldn't have played. Star Wars X-Wings versus TIE Fighters Vicinity.
That's awful. That is
excellent game. Remove the Star Wars element. It was actually just a really cool, fighter pilot game. It was really cool. Gran Turismo also came out this year, which was a bit of a game changer for the racing car game genre, because you really were just playing Formula One or Need for Speed. And then my other positive honourable mention would be FIFA 98, which obviously came out in 97, which is the FIFA way. It was the road to the World Cup. And every time you put that disc in, opens with a little bit of Song 2 by Blur.
Yeah.
And it was my first FIFA, and I just absolutely adored it.
Could you play indoor?
Yep. Well, I don't know if it was 98,
indoor,
but there was one where you could play indoor footy. I think
you could play indoor in that one.
Yeah.
Did it have tub thumping on too?
Perhaps.
There was a game that I swear there's a game that you got into in it, and it was "I Get Knocked Down," like the first song that came on.
Yeah, it might have been World Cup 98.
Oh.
My only other honourable mention is, I think we're all well aware that I have a bit of a love for the Mortal Kombat series. And of their 11 fighting games, like combat games, because they've got a few spin-offs that are like side scrollers and stuff like that, but of their 11 fighting games, Mortal Kombat 4 is by far the worst. And that came out in 97.
I got a couple.
Oh, yep.
Abe's Odyssey.
Excellent.
That was good.
Good little game on PC, I believe. Also on PC, Age of Empires. And Tekken 3, arguably the best Tekken game. And Crash Bandicoot 2.
That's,
Tub thumping was on World Cup 98, just for that.
That's what it was. And Simon, I'm disappointed you haven't mentioned the Intelligent Cube Karushi came out in 1997.
The worst game ever to exist. Look up on YouTube somebody Karushi. It's just the pits.
Well, I tell you, I did this in the research for this. I thought Karushi must have come out around then. Yeah, and I watched a guy do a walkthrough of Karushi and explain how it actually works. It's an awful game.
No idea what you guys are talking about.
It was on a demo that we got a PlayStation, and it was just on this demo, and my God, it was awful. Anyway.
Yeah, that's me.
Sweet. So Jonas gets the win.
And
a pretty good long list of honourable mentions, I think.
Absolutely.
Right, so to the sporting section, we've got sporting moment and sporting team. And this does take some research. Let's go with Pat first.
I've got 2 honourables we'll save to the end, but there's one standout sporting moment, and it's got to be the Tyson air bite. It's in 1997. Well documented.
I know where I was. I can remember where I was when that happened.
God,
Same.
There's Diana territory.
Well, we'll get to that.
That's in my honourable mentions for sure. Sammy?
Also honourable mention for me.
It's tough. Mine is a young Tiger Woods winning his first major, the Masters, by 12 shots, which is outrageous. He was the first African American winner of the Masters, or of African American descent, and also the youngest Masters winners. Changed golf for the next, changed golf pretty much.
He was 21, I think, wasn't he?
Yeah.
That's ridiculous.
That's mine too. And Sam said all the points I wanted. It just one other. He shot 18 under, despite being +4 on the front nine on the first day.
Wow.
So he shot -22 on the final 63 holes.
That is good. That is why that is exactly why he became who he was. Like, that's a defining moment in sporting history. But it's not my moment. My moment is the Montreal screw job.
What?
Let me enlighten you guys.
Yeah, please.
On the 9th of November, 1997, at what was it? Let me check so I get this right. Survivor Series was held in Canada, the WWF Championship.
Fucking hell. I thought this was sports.
Sports entertainment.
This would have been in TV shows.
So, Bret the Hitman Hart, the defending world champion, was fighting Shawn Michaels, the Heartbreak Kid. And Vince McMahon, who was the owner, had scripted that Shawn Michaels would beat Bret Hart because Bret Hart was defecting to WCW in the following year, and he didn't want a champion, and in inverted commas there, leaving his organisation. He had to lose his title before he left. And Bret Hart said, that's fine, but I will not lose in front of my home fans, because he was Canadian. And Vince McMahon said, that's fair enough. Vince McMahon then went behind his back and arranged with the referee and HBK that when HBK had him in his trademark sharpshooter submission hold, the referee would ring the bell even though Bret Hart hadn't submitted, giving Shawn Michaels the title. It's incredible. You watch it. The bell rings. Shawn Michaels grabs the belt, sprints out of the arena. The crowd is absolutely furious, and Bret Hart has absolutely no idea what's going on.
I'm with Pat. That should have been in best series on the television.
Yeah, would have given you that too.
No, I appreciated it, Sean. I for one appreciate it.
I've got one good honourable, which I almost took. 97 Origin was the cattle dog incident. It's where Game 3 was a dead rubber. New South Wales already won, and they knew that Queensland were just going to come out and just basically try and hurt them. I think Tommy Rododicus was the assistant coach for New South Wales, and he had a call that was cattle dog, which was basically at a breakdown or at scrum time, the front row was just basically meant to just start opening up and start a punch up. They did this, and Andrew Johns was playing hooker at the time. He ends up getting laid out by Jamie Goddard. So that was a great sporting moment. Matty Johns plays it as often as he can.
That is a great sporting moment. We'll go to team, and then we'll come back to any more honourable mentions.
Yeah, Pat, you boomer.
So back to you, Pat, for best team of 97.
This is a weird one. I've got for team. I've got teams. This is the weird era of rugby league where half the teams are playing Super League and half are playing ARL. So my best team is going to be the teams, which are all those weird teams that came out of the woodwork around that time. So Adelaide Rams, the Western/Perth Reds, the Hunter Mariners, the Gold Coast Chargers, and the South Queensland Crushers, whose mascot was
Crushers.
a train.
Nice.
And somehow the Warriors still didn't make the playoffs. Sammy?
Look, it was a tough one, this. And I feel I might be taking yours here, Sean. If not yours, Simon's. I'm going with the Sri Lankan cricket team, who scored 952 for 6 in a test against India. Stanith Jayasuriya got 340 with a massive 576th second wicket partnership with, I can't remember his first name, but Mahanama, who got 225.
Sean Mahanama.
Only 2 sixes in their entire innings. And I think that just would have, that's the peak of Sri Lankan cricket.
Well, it's just coming off the previous year winning the World Cup, isn't it?
Oh, and I just remember, as a cricket player myself, just looking at the scorecard, I was like, how did you get to 950? I would have been so over it as the fielding team. Even when the 2 guys got out, they could have just declared, but no, they batted for 300 more runs.
That's the kind of spiteful batting that you get in a 2-dayer and Div 4 and Saturday cricket. That's excellent. Simon?
Yeah, so for me, I'm going with the Detroit Red Wings of the National Hockey League. They swept the finals for love over the Philadelphia Flyers, and they had 7 Hall of Famers on their roster. And I've even heard of some of them, which is my hockey knowledge is pretty. Yeah, Yzerman's one of them. Sergei Fedorov, another big name. Vyacheslav Fedosov, Igor Larionov, Nicholas Lidstrom, that's another big name, Larry Murphy, Brendan Shanahan, and Stevie Yzerman. So I went with the Detroit Red Wings, 4-0 sweep, and 7 Hall of Famers.
Do you know those names because you played the PlayStation game and were you just trying to make those fights happen the entire time?
Oh, those games are so good. Yeah, probably both the game, and then some of those guys were still Fedorov and Yzerman were still around, at the birth of the internet and Sports Center and stuff. So I knew a little bit of that from them.
I know one ice hockey player,
Wayne
Gretzky.
There you go.
I thought you were going to say Happy Gilmore.
Good point. And Gordon Bombay. My team, I'll give the background information first. They went their season undefeated, save a first round. Well, they were undefeated, but in their first round, they drew. Every other game was a win. They were the previous winners the year before in the inaugural competition. So my team of the year is the Auckland Blues. They won every game in 97 after winning Super 12 in 96. That draw in round 1 was 40-40 against Northern Transvaal at Loftus. And just while I've got you there, from 15 going down, Adrian Cashmore, Brian Lima, Ronnie Clark, Lee Stensness, Joeli Videri, Carlos Spencer, Officer Junior Tanu, Zinzan Brook, Captain, Michael Jones, Mark Carter, Robin Brook, Leo Lafaeli, Craig Down, Short Fitzpatrick, and Olo Brown's the starting 15.
Was that the year where Caltex had the little oblong stickers of all the players you used to collect?
Yeah, yes. Because 97 must be the year that Jonah played for the Chiefs.
Yeah, probably was.
Because he's not in this Blues lineup. And only a couple of good mentions off the bench too. Dylan Meeker and Charlie Reichelman.
Nice.
Coached by the great Graham Henry.
Dylan Meeker now a judge, I believe.
Yeah.
Wow. Who's, we're going to try and pick a winner. I guess we could go with Tiger Woods, I think. Because you guys both picked him. So he wins moment and team because he's a one-man team.
Yeah, the Mike Tyson bite was definitely up there for me too.
That's definitely on my list. There's a couple other things. Martina Hingis won the Aussie Open at the age of 16,
Outrageous.
and then went on to win the US and Wimbledon, and came second at Roland Garros.
You mentioned it earlier, but also the first time a computer beat a chess grandmaster.
Yeah.
Pretty big. Gary Kasparov, my mate Casey in my class, loves him. And I've got Latrell Sprewell strangling PJ Carlissimo, his coach, from the Golden State Warriors.
It's that you can't do that. That's right, you can't do that.
He got suspended for a year.
I also had the Bulls, who obviously were halfway through their second three-peat. Also in that season, Dennis Rodman kicked a referee in the nuts, I think. Was it a referee? Someone. What? A photographer, that's it.
A media
photographer.
member or something.
Yeah.
He's definitely a photographer.
Yeah, that's right. Sorry, apologies.
The flu game, MJ's flu game was that year too, against the Jazz in Game 5.
Yeah. A couple of cricket things. Obviously, we heard about Sri Lanka. Stephen Fleming becomes the Black Caps' youngest ever captain at 23. Daniel Vettori becomes the Black Caps' youngest player at 18. But more importantly, in the inaugural International Cricket Max series, the Max Blacks, captained by Roger Toos, defeated the England Lions 2-1.
Did Carl Bulfin steam in from one end?
I've got the team here.
No, I was just joking.
I believe Phil Chandler was in the team. Aaron Barnes. Robert Kennedy.
Oh, yeah, good.
Yeah.
We'll play with Rob.
The Zimbabwe-New Zealand tie there, one-day international. Gavin Larson run out on the last ball amidst crowd surging onto the field.
Any other sporting people, moments, things?
Now let's get to history.
Yeah, and so I'm just classing pop culture as history here. I think we all know what's going to win history. And it's weird to say it's a win, but maybe not then. Well, I'll go first and mention when the Princess Diana incident changed the world. I remember that morning very clearly. I went to school. I was in year 6, or standard 4 as it was known at the time. And my very British teacher made every morning 5 or 6 students had to get up and give a piece of news that they'd researched the night before or brought from the paper or something, and just do like a 30-second report. And as predicted, most people reported on Princess Diana's death. And one class member had obviously done his research prior to the news and reported on St Bernard's first 15 victory on the weekend. And my very English teacher absolutely scolded him for not doing Princess Di news.
Have you guys got that too?
No. We're doing cultural history. What are we doing here?
Just both.
Yeah, I mean that's probably the biggest moment. Best will come as no surprise to most people. For me, is Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone coming out. Game changer of a book and series.
Sorry, Simon, that's also been cancelled.
Yeah, sure. But no, Harry Potter 1 coming out, no doubt about it, for me is number 1 on the list.
That's a massive moment. Huge.
Harry Potter, for me, was the number 1. Is O.J. Simpson being sentenced 97?
Yep.
No, he's found guilty in the civil trial.
Oh, sorry. Yep.
Yeah, I didn't quite know. I had the Mike Tyson bite in there too. even though it's not just I think I can remember where I was for that and Princess Diana dying when I found out about that. Pat?
Mine I didn't know about until we researched for this episode, and I'm just going to read out the Wikipedia point of this one. The 71st annual Macy's Thanksgiving Parade was held in New York City with high winds gusting up to 50 miles an hour, which led to the Cat in the Hat balloon crashing into a lamppost between 72nd and Central Park West, injuring 4 people. In addition, the Pink Panther balloon went out of control shortly after reaching Broadway and was shredded by a stoplight. The balloon of Barney was torn in the side by a lamppost between 55th and Broadway, which the balloon would later be removed, and the incident would go viral in 2013 in a video titled Thanksgiving 97, the day Barney was killed. I watched that video about 30 times when I was off sick the other day. And there's some other good ones of the Cat in the Hat as well. We'll definitely be putting that a link to that YouTube video up on our socials.
That is phenomenal.
Absolutely.
So that's everyone?
Yeah. I've got a lot of honourable mentions.
Yeah, so
but I'll wait.
Go, Simon.
Should we go one
All
honourable
right.
mention at a time here? Because we'll all have a few.
Yeah, let's go round table.
You go first, Si.
Ellen DeGeneres comes out. That's quite a big deal.
Mm.
She should have cancelled.
Yep.
Yeah, look, Ellen DeGeneres, not my favourite comedian, shall I say, but absolutely a huge
On the
moment.
website that news came up for me when I was doing research. It had the title "A News That Surprised No One." Ellen DeGeneres came out.
Well, didn't it? Wasn't it like a magazine? It just said "I'm gay" and it had a big face on it.
Yeah, I think also her character
she
in
did
her
it on-
TV show
yeah.
had come out first,
Yeah,
but
Yeah.
but she
right.
hadn't, which was an interesting tidbit.
Okay.
Sammy?
The cloning of Dolly the sheep. I remember that being
yeah.
big news.
Big news.
Yep.
Big ethical news. Paddy?
So that'll be where this one comes in, because I just read one of the notes off Wikipedia that said Bill Clinton banned federal funding for any research of human
Yeah.
cloning, which I was like, funding human cloning.
It's also the
Funny.
year he got re-elected for a second term.
He also fell over and hurt his knee, which would later require surgery, I found out.
I also found it funny that 96 multiplicity came out. So then I was like, oh, it's a conspiracy theory trying to test the waters to see if we'd be okay with human cloning. And it was a no.
I'm here for multiplicity. My honourable mention will be Steve Jobs going back to Apple after 12 years and the initial planning for the iMac, iTunes, iPod, iPad and iPhone began.
Wow.
Oh, biggie.
Simon?
Yep. I've got Gianni Versace is murdered. Shot. That was really huge, and it came after Diana, I think. And as referenced by the great Father Dougal Maguire, God, Ted, you remember that fellow who was so good at fashion they had to shoot him? Yeah, so that's another big moment.
Yeah. I've got. I might just jump in quickly because I've got a few other deaths that we could cover off here.
Okay.
Notorious B.I.G. was shot. Chris Farley had a combined cocaine and heroin overdose, and Michael Hutchins of INXS had that accidental autoerotic asphyxiation death.
Ooh. Whoa. And Jeff Buckley died.
There you go.
And Mother Teresa.
Mother Teresa as well.
Yeah. Mother Teresa, a famous holy person who doesn't have a video of them sucking tongues with a young boy. Dalai Lama, you could learn something from her. Sammy?
I'll just do my two last ones. Ireland granted its first divorce in 1997, which I thought was quite interesting. And the first functioning Wi-Fi in 97, which I thought was really early.
Yeah, it is early. Good.
Petty?
Yeah, I've only got two more as well. So mass suicide of the Heaven's Gate cult, 97.
Oh, that's interesting, eh? Have a read of that.
Yeah, big fan.
They were was something about the Haley Bopp comet trying to escape a UFO or something.
Yeah, the UFO was going to come. They were going to go off with the aliens. Dit and Doe or something was their leaders. They were pretty funny. And TVNZ broadcast MTV into Aotearoa for the first time.
Yeah, a bit of talk soup for you.
Tyra Banks, first black swimsuit. Oh yeah, cover of the swimsuit. SI.
Yep.
Sports Illustrated magazine, which doesn't seem like a big deal now because no one reads magazines, but it's a big deal back then.
My last bit of honourable mentions: toe wrestling, which is a competitive sport, is held every year in a championship in England. In 1997, the Olympic Committee turned the sport down as a possible entry to the Olympics on the basis that they couldn't decide whether or not it would be a winter or summer sport.
That's the only thing that held it back.
I guess so.
Wow.
Say worse things in the Olympics.
So we got to pick a 1997 winner, lads. And it's definitely
it's not even close, I don't reckon.
Oh,
yes. Clearly the balloons at Thanksgiving, isn't it?
Absolutely.
Nah, you mentioned it earlier, Sean. I reckon it's got to be the Spice Girls.
yeah, I think so. I agree with that. Cultural, long-lasting impact, and a great episode of this podcast.
Yeah, that had long impact. Unlike, the death of Princess Di or anything like that. Yeah, give it to the Spice Girls.
Oh, just before we go on, because you mentioned Princess Di, I'm a big conspiracy theory artist.
Of course you are.
Is there any
spin-off podcast coming?
Any thoughts from you guys as to whether that was an accident or not?
Could well have been a setup. Could well have been, like, quite easily, right? There's no reason. There's no. You can't argue that it quite possibly could have been a setup.
I'm still reeling from Homer's conspiracy theory about JFK when he finally figured out that Lee Harvey Oswald stole the Jack Ruby. So I'm out on all conspiracy theory.
There's 2 episodes of our new conspiracy theory podcast coming up.
The moon landing was in the 90s, wasn't it?
Yeah. What moon landing?
Do we go to an overall 90s thing, or was that it?
I think we gave it to the Spice Girls.
Yeah, Spice Girls, definitely.
Spice Girls.
Much bigger.
We didn't want to go with Tamagotchis.
Oh,
that's a great one.
Mm-hmm.
Just a little nugget I wanted to save up for the end there.
My Tamagotchi, speaking of nuggets, my Tamagotchi just ended up with a screen full of shit. So what happened if you left it too long? It just had shit all over.
Tamagotchis. I mean, I never had one. Did you have one, Sam? I don't remember that.
Yeah, definitely had one.
And you just spent so much time with so little reward. Like, they kind of sucked, but it was something that was really big and that I don't think would ever exist now, eh? Like, people want instant reward. And what was the reward? Like, it got to 22 days old or something?
You're meant to keep it alive. I went a step worse. I reckon I had one for like 2 days and lost the actual thing.
Devastating.
Didn't get a replacement.
I had them. I had a few. I think Spice Girls is a fair winner. Feel free to hit us up in the Slacks if you disagree with us, or if we missed anything that was very notable from the year of 1997. We're thinking we might try and do these quarterly. They do take a bit of research, but they are good fun. So yeah.
Before we sign off,
Yeah.
can we rank 1997 and 1991?
Oh yeah,
the
let's
two
have a running tally.
years? Yeah, for me, 1997. That there was a lot more in 1997 than 1991 for me. So I would go 97 then 91.
Okay.
Yep.
I agree with you in terms of the content. Like 97's content is better. But if you ask me to compare our two winners, that's a little bit difficult. You know, like the 91 Bulls versus the Spice. I suppose the Spice Girls.
Ooh, yeah.
Not even close for me.
What you mean, like the Spice Girls way above the Bulls?
Yeah.
Again, long lasting. Yeah, not the Bulls.
Yeah, I suppose when you come down to it at the end, when you're picking an overall winner of the 90s, it might. No, yeah, I think that's fair. Okay, yeah. Based on that, for me, both content and winner, then yeah, 97 is the winner.
Great.
So next time we do it, we'll remember that we ranked 97 first.
Yep. And
Get like a ranking chart.
It'd be very interesting to see if our ranking chart is just going to go from high 90s to low 90s based on our ages, or if
Yeah,
something
probably,
in the low 90s can throw us. I feel sorry for 1990 when that pops up. All right. Well, before we go, hit us up. Follow us on the socials at WIWT90s. Twitter, TikTok, Instagram. It's also our YouTube handle. And we're on Spotify and iHeartRadio and Apple Podcasts and other various podcast platforms. Please keep up the reviews. See if we've got some. We've got a few reviews on Spotify, but I don't think on Spotify you can actually say something. I think it's just a star rating. So I might check in on some of our other ones to see if there's any written ones and read them out. If I can work out how to do that, which maybe I can't.
All right, you tub thumpers, it's time to dust off your starter jackets, rip off those tearaways, and blow into your game cartridges. I'm Sam Blandford.
I'm Pat Sellers.
You're Sean Kelly. And I'm Simon Blanford.
How do we muck this up again? It's you,
I thought you were doing it
Simon.
on purpose.
Is it me? I just thought it was Sam, Pat, Sean, me.
I thought you were like really faking them out, playing a game of
Oh,
Hard
yeah.
Farmer / Chicken.
Right,
I can't remember what we called it last time.
And we
well,
wish it was the 90s. Welcome
Take
back.
it again.
Welcome back, dear listeners, to this highly well-organised, structured podcast where we talk about...
Start that again. This is actually going to be a good podcast, this one. We've got to start well.
It's like the father did. No, not
All right,
the first note.
We'll do it again, and I'll just keep the old one in because it's funny.
Sam, Pat. Now put it
Can
at
you
the
see
end.
on the left? It says
Bonus material. Put bonus material. Sam, Pat, me, you. Sweet.